Hello everyone, welcome to another video. In this video we'll learn about Scotch Gambit. It starts with king pawn opening e4, black replies with e5, knight hops in f3, simply knight coming at c6, protecting the pawn, and here not going bishop c4, rather pushing the d4 pawn. Now this is called Scotch game. Now the simple idea is black will take the pawn and white knight will take the pawn and take the central control. That's a Scotch game. But once black takes the pawn, we are not going to take the pawn. Rather, for this pawn we will have better initiative, we will have rapid development, and this pawn will be used on proper time. Like if knight comes, maybe this push will help us to harass the knight. On the other hand, you have to remember that we can pick up this pawn anytime if it's required. So we will have both the option, like if required we can pick up the pawn, or we can go for rapid development and initiative. Now let's go for it. The bishop comes at c4, and here if you see, like this knight can't come here. If it can, but then this pawn will harass this knight. So now let's move for bishop. Now what's the move bishop can have here? Now bishop can come at c5, and here once bishop comes at c5 we are offering another pawn. Now if you see, like if he simply bringing this knight here, we will have a great initiative here, like bringing this knight. If you go attacking this pawn, now if you go for a castling, we can simply go for attack to this pawn, and at the same time we are attacking this pawn, and this pawn has like 3 attacking pieces. Now once it comes, we can go for this. Now in the next move we are going for this one. Now if the queen comes, simply protect that. We will again go for a check, and this discovered check, and they are double check, so he has to move. Once it moves, maybe again check and mate. So now let's see, he doesn't go here, like he doesn't bring his knight here. Rather he is asking how about, or else you have to remember, like if we take the pawn, we'll have a great central control. We are controlling everything in the center. This pawns are simply irresistible. So now he takes the pawn, and here we have the tactics. We can simply take this pawn with a check. Now once king takes this bishop, we are going with a check. Now it goes here, we are again coming with a check. If this pawn leaped to save the check, we can pick up this bishop. Once it comes, takes, and this bishop is again deadly over this diagonal. Or if here, without pushing the pawn, if after going for a check, if he leaps, then again we can go for a check, and once it goes back, we can pick up this pawn. So this, after offering this pawn, if pawn takes pawn, we have the tactics like taking this pawn and then coming with the queen and picking up this bishop. Now we have another tactics here. We can simply bring our knight here to attack this pawn. Now he doesn't have really any protection to save that, except going for this knight here. Knight goes here to protect, but I am not afraid. I'll simply take this pawn. Now once knight takes knight, bishop takes knight with a check. Once takes, now queen coming into the game, and once it goes back, simply winning the bishop. Now we have seen from this position what happens if bishop comes at c5. Now let's see, he try to play passively, bringing the bishop here. Now we will again with the similar plan, we will offer this pawn. Once pawn takes pawn, if pawn doesn't take, we will take the pawn, and we'll have a great center. We'll harass this knight, and he won't be able to castle. Now let's see, he takes the pawn into the game, and this is a mate threat, and he really doesn't have any way to save that, except the knight goes at h6, and bishop takes the knight. He will go for the castling, and here you just have to remember that this takes is really dangerous. Even he is eyeing towards this knight and trying to fork, and in the next move coming here, so he has a great move here. So it's better to give up the bishop here. Once takes, and you will have a great move after taking this, and this is simply great for white. This king is exposed, and it's a pretty easy win. But now let's just see from here, like if you don't take this one, if you simply bring it back to save this point, now here this is really deadly, and you don't have much thing to do. Like if you try to bring your queen back, this push is coming. So from this position, it's always take to better give up your bishop, and then pick up the pawn with the developing the knight, and king is exposed, and this is a pretty easy win for you. In this position, we have seen what happens if bishop comes here, what happens if bishop comes here. If bishop comes here, that is not good at all, because this push is coming. Even he can go for castling. This pawn is simply obstructing by his own bishop, so that's not good. But let's see now more aggressive option coming for a check. Now here once coming for a check, we will simply push the pawn and we will get tempi to the bishop. Once pawn takes, I will suggest you to go for a castling. There is another line as well, you will see that. Now let's see white simply castle, and now he will take another pawn and simply bringing the bishop. These two bishops are so deadly, and he simply don't have any defense against this. Now if he try to hold on to this pawn by pushing this one, we will simply bring this knight. This knight is so deadly here, trying to bring the queen here with a check and win this thing. So this is simply deadly for black. Now if he try to hold on that as well by bringing this knight to protecting this square, so if he comes, he will simply push this one maybe, but here simply giving up this bishop, and now he really doesn't have any protection. Now if he takes, and now coming up with a check. Now if he goes here, this is a mate, so knight has to come, takes, and once it takes, like again coming with a check. Now if he goes, this is a mate, so he has to come back here. Now queen going here with a check. Now once it comes here, you can see this is check. Now if he wants to try to go here, this queen will come and give a checkmate. Now if he try to hold on for a few moves like this just, and then once it moves, check, and this is simply win. Now from this position, another thing you have to remember, like without giving up the pawn from here, like you can simply take the pawn as well, and once you take the pawn without castling, now you are getting tempi to this bishop. Now where this bishop goes, now if bishop goes here, similar kind of threat exists, what we have already seen, and eyeing towards this pawn. If bishop goes here, then again similar kind of thing exists, what we have seen, like sacking this bishop and then picking up this bishop. Or if a bishop goes here, then this bishop will come here, and will simply not allowing him to castle. Like not now, if like in the next move maybe, like if he try to come here, now again this kind of threat exists. So if he does castling, then we have seen already what happens in the very beginning of this gambit. Or if he try to bring this knight here, we will simply go for a castling, and now this castling is not possible to stop. If he try to push this one, then again this push is coming and simply harassing this knight. If he takes, then again he simply can't go for castling. Or if he try to take with the knight, then again this knight will take and takes, and this is simply great position for white. In this position, we have seen what happens if bishop comes here, if bishop comes here, if bishop comes here, if bishop comes here. So we have covered all the move of the bishop. Now let's see what happens if knight comes here. Now once knight comes here, obviously we will harass this knight, and once pawn push comes, if we try to pin this one, we will simply go for castling because we can't take it. Now if knight takes pawn, knight takes knight, queen takes knight, and now rook is coming to fork the queen and king. Now knight comes to cover, and we can play this one, but then this push is coming, and this is simply equalizer. So we will more direct one. Now we are asking this queen to go back. Now once queen goes back, queen can't go here, queen has to remain in this file, either this knight will fall. So once queen goes here, we are simply bringing this knight, more attack to this knight. Now how he can save that? He can't go back, so he has to bring this pawn. Once knight takes knight, pawn takes knight, and now picking up this pawn, and in the next move threatening to take this, and he doesn't really have any defense. Simply he has to move the king, and we are simply taking the pawn, and just see how my pieces are active, how my rook is active on the other side hand. These two rook in the back rank, this bishop is not doing anything, this bishop is not doing anything. This is simply wonderful position from white's position. We have seen like what happens if queen comes here, we will simply go for castling. Now let's see, now simply moving this knight, and once knight moves, I will also bring more attack to this knight. At the same time, I'm attacking this pawn. So how we can save that? So he will try to take this pawn with the knight. Now this knight is protecting this both the thing, so I will ignoring complete threat to taking this bishop. I'll go for castling. Once knight takes bishop, I'll come with a check, and once bishop comes to cover, of course there is nothing can cover the check. If knight comes, knight will fall unnecessarily, queen can't come, so of course bishop will come to protect that. Now again taking this knight, and again have the threat like taking this one, and even if you go for casting, this is mate in one threat possible. So of course he won't go for that. Maybe he will try to protect by bringing this pawn, then again going for this move, and this is simply like a great initiative for white. White is trying to go here at some point, picking up this pawn, attacking this rook, and this knight is not threatening anything at all. This knight doesn't have any good move as well, so this is simply great position for white. Now if knight comes at e4, we'll simply immediately attack this knight. Once knight goes back, we'll simply castle, and I think white has a good position from here, and this pawn is not so strong. White can win that pawn anytime, and black's position is like crumbled. This bishop is not doing much. This bishop will have to come here. This two knight we can harass at any moment, like pushing this pawn, and then after that this pushing pawn getting tempi to this both the knight, bringing this bishop here, bringing this knight here. So this will be a good game from white's perspective. Knight comes at g4 will bring our queen, because this pawn is attacked by knight to knight. So to protect that, we are bringing our queen into the game. So this pawn is protected by twice. Now if he again bring the queen to pick up this pawn, now we will bring our bishop. Now this pawn push will come. Simply he will try to get this bishop out, and if I take, he will take first. So I'll take first. Once queen takes queen, bishop takes queen, if bishop takes bishop, bishop takes bishop, pawn takes bishop, and we can simply bring our knight here. Once black can go for castling, we don't need to go for castling. We can bring our rook, considering the queen not in the board, so we don't need for castling. Now just see, this knight is ready to jump here, pick up this pawn, pick up this pawn. Even I am immediately ready to pick up this pawn. This bishop is getting deadly with some discovered attack to this knight. So this is simply a wonderful game from white, and white has all the initiative. You can see these two pawns are too weak, and the black doesn't have any such weakness, and it is so easy to attack this weakness spots of black. Black simply can ignore this pawn push, and he deny to move this knight. Rather, he can simply go for attack to this bishop. Now from this position, you simply can't take this, because he will take your bishop. So he will simply try to pin this knight. Once trying to pin this knight and attack this knight. Now if knight goes back, you remember you can pick this pawn anytime. Like you can take this one and then maybe followed by this. But before that, I will suggest to castling. Once castling done, now this is the best move he has. Like after that, even you can take this one, and then after that you can pick this one. Even without taking this, you can take this. If you simply want to keep two bishop on the board, you simply take this pawn, and that's a good game. Like if bishop comes here, even you can take this, takes, and now he has to take. If he doesn't take, this is under attack, and like in immediately maybe you are threatening this. Let's see, he is not taking it. Now if he try to bring this one like this push is possible. So many possibilities are there. I have seen all the move, like bringing out the bishop. Now I'll suggest a move from here for blitz game. You should give it a try, and I think you will have a fun simply bringing this knight here. The idea being bringing the knight here, that you are simply attacking this pawn, and this is pretty annoying for black's perspective. If black try to kick this knight by pushing the pawn, now we are not going to bring it back, rather we'll take this pawn. Now once king takes, now we'll come with another check. If it goes back here, we will come with the queen comes, check, and then this bishop will also come into the game, and here comes check, and mate. Now let's see if he simply doesn't go here. Once this check comes from here, if he goes here, then also there is like the king is in center of the board, and maybe after castling, this king is completely misplaced, and white will have a simply wonderful game from here as well. So you can give it a shot in blitz game, but I would suggest for standard game. The reason being, like you are simply wasting a move here. Like if he doesn't push this pawn, like he doesn't need to push, he can bring simply this knight. Maybe he can bring out this bishop as well, try to kick this knight, then he's doing fine. So like not necessarily he has to go. So if you want to have some fun, you can go for this move. Okay, so far I have, from this position, I have covered. After playing this, I have covered all the move from black. Like this bishop comes here, all the moves I have covered. I have also covered after bringing this knight. If rather bringing this bishop, if black bring his knight first after pushing this, like this pawn push, even if knight goes here, knight goes here, knight goes here, or even queen comes to pin. So all the moves I have covered from here. Hopefully you will have a wonderful game by playing the Scotch Gambit, and I'm certain like if your rating is somewhere around like 1500 or 1000, like you can gain like 200 300 yellow by playing this gambit. This is not really a gambit, this is like a positional gambit, I can tell. Like as per your need you can tailor the whether you will take the pawn or whether you will go for the initiative. So it's up to you, and if your opponent is not aware what's happening over the board, you can win a real quick game. And if your opponent knows what's going on the board, if he is accustomed, but still you can have a wonderful game, as this is not you're sacrificing something, you are not gambiting literally, rather you are going for some positional game, and you can take the pawn if it's required. I'll conclude the video here. Hopefully you loved the video, you learned something in that process. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more chess. Bye bye.